Today's story is Crowboy by Taro Yashima, and it's a Caldecott honor book. And this book has a lot of meaning for me. I basically grew up hearing the name Taro Yashima all the time in my house because my mother, her name is Yoshie Shitamoto, she was a student, an art student under Taro Yashima. He was teaching her how to paint, a number of students how to paint, and they had a group called Jacaranda no Kai, and I think it was named after this very beautiful tree that grows in Los Angeles, but I think it originally came from South America. But it has beautiful purple flowers. Anyway, their group was all about art and writing haiku, of all things, poetry in Los Angeles and in Japanese, not in English. So I would hear about Jacaranda no Kai. I would hear Taro Yashima's name all the time, like, oh, my art teacher did this, or my poetry teacher said this. So his name was just always on the lips of my mother. So I remember visiting him, and he was the first person to actually praise one of my drawings. It was probably a horrible drawing of a palm tree, but he said it looked, it was really great, and it made me feel very good and confident about drawing. It's amazing how little it takes to change your whole perspective with kind words. Anyway, he passed away a number of years ago. This was from the tribute to his life. I think they held it in his home town somewhere. I think it was in Kagoshima, in Kyushu. That's where he was originally from, but he moved to New York and ended up in Los Angeles, where my mother became his student. Anyway, this was to celebrate his life. Taro Yashima exhibition in Los Angeles. Actually, this exhibition, I didn't know it was in Los Angeles, but I heard about it later when it traveled to Japan, because it was not long after I actually returned from working in Japan for the first time in 1996. Anyway, so this has all of his, well, not all of his, but much of his artwork. His son, Mako, was a famous actor. He often just went by Mako, and I guess that his last name was just one that he maybe put on a stage name so that he wouldn't get mixed up with his father. Anyway, so I grew up with these kind of paintings all throughout the house. We had this and this painting always hanging in the living rooms. Maybe even this one here. I don't know. Some of these might be borrowed from my mother for the exhibition, but at the very end, near the very end, in Japanese, and the only way I knew it was my mother is because I only know the, my Japanese is horrible, but I know the kanji for Shitamoto. So, right over there, Shitamoto. So I don't even know the kanji for Yoshie, my mother's first name. If someone told me to write Yoshie and put a gun to my head, I could not tell you how to write it. Anyway, she wrote this essay about Taro Yashima that I cannot read. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to read, which is kind of sad. Maybe if Google Translate gets really, really good in the future, I'll finally be able to understand it. Anyway, there's his son in a newspaper. But Taro Yashima, one of the first Caldecott winners from Japan. Maybe he might be the only Caldecott winner who came from Japan, but I'll have to look into that and let you know. So let's start the story. Crowboy. I have a copy of this somewhere, and I was looking all around for it, because it's a signed copy, an autographed copy by Taro Yashima, and he wrote, my name and my brother's names, but I could not locate it. It's probably sitting in a box where it's been since I moved here 14 years ago, from LA to Japan. But somewhere in my house, there is a box with Taro Yashima's autographed books, and I will show it to you one day. I will find it. Okay. Please enjoy Crowboy by Taro Yashima. To Mitsu and Momo, who helped to make this book, and to Takeo Isonaga, who appears in this story as a teacher named Isobe. Crowboy by Taro Yashima. See, I can't read that. I wish I could. And this was written a long time ago. It was first published by the Viking Press in 1955. Crowboy. On the first day of our village school in Japan, there was a boy missing. He was found hidden away in the dark space underneath the schoolhouse floor. Do you see him? None of us knew him. He was nicknamed Chibi because he was very small. Chibi means tiny boy. This strange boy was afraid of our teacher and could not learn a thing. He was afraid of the children and could not make friends with them at all. Sakura, I can read that. He was left alone in the study time. He was left alone in the playtime. He was always at the end of the line, always at the foot of the class, a forlorn little tag-along. Soon, Chibi began to make his eyes cross-eyed. That's where you turn both eyes towards each other and you start to see double, so that he was able not to see whatever he did not want to see. So there were certain things he did not want to see. Can you guess what? And Chibi found many ways, one after another, to kill time and amuse himself. Just the ceiling was interesting enough for him to watch for hours. The wooden top of his desk was another thing interesting to watch. A patch of cloth on a boy's shoulder was something to study. Of course, the window showed him many things all year round. Even when it was raining, the window had surprising things to show him. Looks like Boro. On the playground, if he closed his eyes and listened, Chibi could hear many different sounds, near and far. And Chibi could hold and watch insects and grubs that most of us wouldn't touch or even look at, so that not only the children in our class, but the older ones and even the younger ones called him stupid and slowpoke. But slowpoke or not, day after day, Chibi came trudging to school. He always carried the same lunch, a rice ball wrapped in a radish leaf. Even when it rained or stormed, he still came trudging along, wrapped in a raincoat made from dried zebra grass. And so, day by day, 5 years went by, and we were in the 6th grade, the last class in school. Our new teacher was Mr. Isobe. He was a friendly man with a kind smile. Mr. Isobe often took his class to the hilltop behind the school. He was pleased to learn that Chibi knew all the places where the wild grapes and wild potatoes grew. He was amazed to find how much Chibi knew about all the flowers in our class garden. He liked Chibi's black and white drawings and tacked them up on the wall to be admired. He liked Chibi's own handwriting, which no one but Chibi could read, and he tacked that up on the wall. And he often spent time talking with Chibi when no one was around. But when Chibi appeared on the stage at the talent show of that year, no one could believe his eyes. Who is that? What can that stupid do up there? Until Mr. Isobe announced that Chibi was going to imitate the voices of crows. Voices? Voices of crows? Voices of crows? Voices of crows. First, he imitated the voices of newly hatched crows. And he made the mother crow's voice. Then he imitated the father crow's voice. He showed how crows cry early in the morning. He showed how crows cry when the village people have some unhappy accident. He showed how crows call when they are happy and gay. Everybody's mind was taken to the far mountainside from which Chibi probably came to the school. At the end, to imitate a crow on an old tree, Chibi made very special sounds deep down in his throat. Quack! Quack! Now, everybody could imagine exactly the far and lonely place where Chibi lived with his family. Then, Mr. Isobe explained how Chibi had learned those calls, leaving his home for school at dawn and arriving home at sunset. Every day for 6 long years. Every one of us cried, thinking how much we had been wrong to Chibi all those long years. Even grown-ups wiped their eyes, saying, "Yes, yes, he is wonderful." Soon after that came graduation day. Chibi was the only one in our class honored for perfect attendance through all the 6 years. After school was over, the big boys would often have work to do in the village for their families. Sometimes, Chibi came to the village to sell the charcoal he and his family made. But nobody called him Chibi anymore. We all called him Crow Boy. Hi, Crow Boy. Crow Boy would nod and smile as if he liked the name. And when his work was done, he would buy a few things for his family. Then he would set off for his home on the far side of the mountain, stretching his growing shoulders proudly like a grown-up man. And from around the turn of the mountain road would come a crow call, the happy one. Story was even better than I remembered it being. So I hope you look into Taro Yashima. Check out his other stories. He's written a lot, but I don't know how many are in print anymore. I will try to find some for the library because he definitely was an early pioneer in English picture books by a person from Japan as both the illustrator and the author. All right, thank you.